Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
Hey there, thinkers. It's me, your girl, your host, Elena Grace, and you're listening to another episode of I've Been Thinking. So, as always, thank you so much for that. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know, just for being here and listening to me talk. Now, today we have a solo episode. You know, these are kind of few and far between. But it always feels very much like I'm going back to the beginning when I record solos, because that's how I've been thinking began, was with me talking to myself about whatever, talking to you, talking to myself, locked up in my bedroom. And it feels good sometimes to go back and do that again. So I'm excited. I'm excited for today's episode. And, we've had a lot of kind of info dumpy and that kind of thing episodes lately. Just a lot of information. So we wanted to give you an easier one today. And still good, still meaningful, still thoughtful, all of that. But this is kind of a little spring check-in, if you will. This week was Beltane, the first week of May. The first day of May is May Day or Beltane in Gaelic tradition. And Beltane is a day of looking forward, right? So historically, culturally, Beltane is the first day of spring, kind of, to the Celts. And these kinds of holidays follow through across indigenous cultures across the world. But specifically, Beltane is one of the major holidays of Celtic pagan tradition and is about halfway between the spring equinox and the coming summer solstice. So I accidentally said the first day of spring. I meant the first day of summer. It's like spring at its peak and the coming of summer, right? So it's very strongly associated with the future, as well as fertility and cleansing and moving forward and all those good things. So you have a lot of celebrations like bonfires, which are representative of the fire and the heat of the coming summer, which we love, and that's is likely celebrating the Celtic sun god, Belenus. And then it's also a cleansing ritual. So being around the bonfires, specifically walking between bonfires or over bonfires, is cleansing and good luck and fertilizing and all those good things. So this time of year is really powerful in pagan traditions. It has been picked up by pagans of all kinds in modern times. And it's just really meaningful. And I think that really speaks to the truth of the holiday and what it represents. That idea that it is so transcultural, so transferable. You can, anybody really can truly celebrate it. You don't have to do it as a fertility rite, and you don't have to celebrate it as a an homage to the Celtic sun god. It can very much just be a celebration of the coming summer and all of that excitement and motivation that comes with the new season, right? And I think that that is really meaningful, and it's really representative, of course, of this time of year as well. But when producer Tyler suggested that I kind of talk about Beltane in this episode, I was like, you know what? That's crazy that you say that, because it fits very much with what I was already feeling excited to talk about. So my very last solo episode was on vulnerability. And so I talked about, being vulnerable with my friends, with myself, how it affects me, being vulnerable with my partner. And I just kind of dive in and through that idea, right? But this episode is meant to be a little bit of a follow-up on that. But it's also a follow-up on episode 112, which was goals for 2023 and reflecting on the last year. So in this episode, and kind of in celebration of Beltane, I want to talk about the idea of motivation. And like I said, Beltane is a time for looking forward, for excitement, for a new season, for all the good that will come with the summer and eventually the harvest and, all of those good things. The summer was a really important time for Celts because that was when they tended their crops. It was all the new that was coming up out of the cold, dark ground. And again, all the new, all the excitement, all the things that they had worried about all winter and then planted in the late winter, early spring, those things are now beginning to come to fruition. So it's a really exciting time. And that's why Beltane is so focused on cleansing, on excitement, on blessings, on the joy of just like being a human as the sky, as the sun remains in the sky a little bit longer every day, all those good things. So today I want to talk about motivation and the things that motivate me and, places I find motivation. And that's really, really hard, just being motivated and staying motivated. And something that I have been really focusing on lately, and I think that this is a really basic idea, but it's so easy to forget, okay, is that we cannot become what we want by remaining what we are. Now, that is a quotation by Max Dupree, but the accuracy, and again, the simplicity is just really, it's really there. We can't sit around and expect to become, if we want to be a podcaster, you can't sit on the couch and just think, man, I wish I was a podcaster. You have to get up and start talking. You have to start recording into your phone. You have to eventually maybe buy a mic, whatever it is. You can't just sit on the couch and think, man, I want that. If you want to become a runner, you can't just sit on the couch or lay in bed and think, man, I want to be a runner. That sounds cool. And just do nothing for it. No, you have to get out and go for a walk first. You have to start living that life. And that's something producer Tyler and I have been talking about lately. That's, again, something I've been really focusing on in my personal life, that idea of if we want to be something, if I want to be something, just take a step towards it, right? So something, it's so small, but I've been talking about this a lot lately. I read this funny tweet a while back about like eating charcuteries for lunch. And I was like, damn, I want to live a life where I can eat a charcuterie board just for my lunch every day. And then I realized no one's stopping me from that. I don't have to go to a restaurant and get a charcuterie and a glass of champagne for lunch in order to live that lifestyle. Because I can't afford that right now. I wish I could. I can't. I don't have to have a private chef or somebody else making this charcuterie for me. I can make my own damn charcuterie and I can live that life. So you know what? I've started making myself little charcuteries in my little bento box and I take it to work. Or last night, I made myself a charcuterie for dinner. It was salami, 2 different kinds of cheese because, I limit my dairy, but I still love cheese. And let's see, salami, a Baby Bell cheese, some like herb and chives, something like that. And like sugar snap peas and a little carrot salad I made and olives and crackers. Gluten-free. Carb Master gluten-free crackers. Quality. Adam hates them. He says they taste like cardboard. But me, his mother, and his baby sister, we eat those things. We eat a whole box at a time. They're good. You can do these little things that like feel maybe like they're elevating your life or feel like they're getting you closer to being that person that you dream of being. Like that is so cool that you can just do these little things. If you want to be the kind of girly who drinks tea every morning, just make yourself a cup of tea. That's all it takes to be a little tea drinking girly. Make yourself a cup of tea. Go get one at Starbucks. I go get one at your local coffee shop, right? Like it is so easy when you stop having those mental blocks that keep you from being. And I get it because it's fun to yearn sometimes. Tyler, you know what I'm talking about. That man loves to yearn for something. He says, "Oh, I dream of being this." And I'm like, "Tyler, then do it." It's not, this thing that you're dreaming of is actually not that hard. You just have to focus on that first step. And that's actually a quotation that I saw recently on Pinterest, I think. It said, focus on the first step, not the whole staircase. Like, how good is that? How good is that? That's exactly what I'm getting at. Just take that first step because there's no right time to do something. Well, sometimes there is a wrong time, but there's no right time to do something. You just have to do it if you want to become something, if you want to change your life, if you want to take a step towards changing your life, you just have to do it. Because next year, you'll wish you had started right now. And that's always something that really gets me as well. That idea of, man, if I had... So sometimes I think to myself, if I had kept up with this thing that I was doing a long time ago, I would be, who knows where or who I would be. And that's a lesson I've had to learn, right? If I want something, I need to not let other people's ideas and judgments or opinions keep me from doing this thing that I enjoy or that I want, right? And I've done that before. I regret to say it, but I have to admit that I have let other people not sometimes bully me out of doing something I love. Sometimes, tell me, well, why are you doing this if you don't want, like, at one point I had somebody say to me, well, do you want to be an influencer? Why are you posting on Instagram all the time? And I said, not necessarily, I just like it. And they said, well, why? If you don't want to be an influencer, why do you share everything? And that made me feel really self-conscious, and I kind of quit sharing a lot of things for a while. And now I'm gaining my confidence back in doing that and reminding myself that I don't have to want to be a full-time influencer to enjoy sharing my life on Instagram, right? Or I don't have to want to be a gold medal athlete to want to go to the gym. Like, you don't have to want to be a professional something. You don't have to want to make it your whole entire life to enjoy something. There's so much nuance to each and every one of us, and that gets lost. People like the one-dimensionality. They like being able to put you into a box. They like to make you feel like less because they see themselves as less, or they see themselves as small, or they see themselves as one-dimensional. So it hurts when they see somebody else with all these layers, right? And they don't want you to have that. And that really gets to some people. That gets to me sometimes. And I feel like, well, can I have all these layers? Am I doing the right thing by having all these layers? Yes. Yes, I am doing the right thing by having all these layers, okay? And I'm not going to stop. And you're not going to stop, because imagine where and who we could be if we don't stop. And imagine how much sadness or regret or loss we might feel if we do stop. Because I feel sadness about things that I stopped doing. I try very hard not to feel regret ever, because it's all a lesson learned. But I do feel sadness sometimes. And I do feel sometimes like, what could I be doing? How could my life be different in hopefully good ways if I hadn't stopped doing some of these things? And it's not just posting on Instagram. It's my martial arts. It's going to the gym as much as I did at one point in my life. Like, how much stronger could I be, Just like all these things. So don't stop doing what you're doing if you're already doing what you want to be doing. And let's start doing what we want to be doing right now. Like, let this be I'm going to start right now. Not on Monday, not tomorrow. Start it as soon as you possibly can. Because the only people worth impressing are your 5-year-old self and your 85-year-old self. And those versions of you, for me personally, I know that my 5-year-old self would say, holy guacamole. I didn't know what guacamole was. My 5-year-old self would say, holy chicken fingers. You're an artist? We're an artist? And I would say, yeah, dude, we're an artist. Like, people buy stuff from us. People ask us to paint stuff for them. And my 5-year-old self would be like, what the heck? I am not going to let my high school teachers tell me that that's not a real job. I'm not going to let anybody discourage me. And I am going to keep drawing as much as I friggin' can. And I am going to absolutely fill up the walls in Aunt Juju's playroom. Oh, the walls in my aunt's, like, it was like the playroom. It was, like the TV room. Now it's kind of like the TV room. They're full of my artwork, full of it. And they would be even more full, I think, if little me had known where we would be today, right? Because I would have kept making more and more and more and kept creating and kept growing. And I did, but just not as much as maybe I would have. If my little 5-year-old self had known this is where we'd be today. And my 85-year-old self, God, I think about her all the time. Because I think to myself, when I'm 85, do I want to look back and say, why didn't I go on that trip? Why didn't I go out on that boat that day? Why didn't I have fun? Why didn't I work harder towards my goals? Why didn't I go to the gym? I could be in much better physical condition if I had just gone to the gym once a week. Why didn't I take Winnie on more walks? Man, she loved going on walks. Why didn't I? Why didn't I? Why didn't I? Like, that will kill me if I have a life full or a head full of why didn't I's when I'm 85 years old. That will absolutely kill me. It will destroy me. It will rip my soul apart. I know that I can't handle that. And I want to be proud when I'm 85, and I want to tell whoever is around me, I want to tell the children in my life, the young people in my life, like, yeah, I did this crazy thing once in Tokyo, Japan, and here I'm going to tell you about it. And they're going to be like, what? That's so crazy. Why did you do that? And I'm going to be like, because I knew that my future self needed it. I knew that my future self wouldn't be nearly as happy if I hadn't done this thing. So I really do think about the future version of myself the most. But I do think about baby Elena sometimes, and I try to nurture the parts of me that are still baby Elena and that still need that nurturing and encouragement and need the playfulness and the joy and all of those things. But I think the most about my future self, and I think, what can I do right now to make my future self proud? What can I do right now? And I think that is really one of my greatest motivators when we get down to it. Talking about the future and motivation and where to find motivation, for me, it really is in impressing my future self, because there's nothing more important to me personally. And making sure that I have lived the life that, not even that I want to live, living the life that I need to live, and living all of it to the fullest extent that I can. Because if I leave this world knowing that I could have lived harder, that I could have done more, like, I'm sure there will be a few places where I'm like, I should have done that. But ultimately, I want to leave this world, this plane of existence, confident that I have really milked it for all I could. And that's what motivates me. So for some people, what motivates them might be watching an incredible movie, watching the trailer for the Barbie movie, and saying, I want to be Margot Robbie. I want to be that absolutely iconic actress, right? And so that motivates them. For some people, it is their family. Their family motivates them, wanting to give their family something more or wanting to give their family something different. That's what motivates them. Whatever it is that motivates you, find it and wrap it up in a little ball. Like, envision this. You pick up what motivates you and you wrap it up in a little ball, all safe and sound, and you put it inside of your chest. That's where mine is at. It's in the middle of my chest. And that's where I feel excitement, and that's where I feel motivation. And that ball of motivation that sits in the center of my chest, that is what keeps me going. That's where I feel it when somebody says, wow, Elena, that painting is incredible. Or wow, Elena, that episode was awesome. That really spoke to me. Or that was really interesting. I really learned something from it. I'm really intrigued by that idea. That's where I feel it when somebody says that. And that's what keeps me going. So for you, I want you to envision wrapping your motivation up, whatever it is. So like I said, for me, it's my future self. I wrap that feeling up, put it in the middle of your chest, and hold it there. And anytime something happens that makes you feel a little bit more excited from the future, think about it. Think about those motivating factors for you. And anytime you need reminded of why you're doing this, of why you're taking that step, feel it right there in the middle of your chest. Feel that motivation, again, whatever it is. Focus on it, think about it, because that will make taking that step so much easier for you. So whether that step is buying the ingredients for your everyday charcuterie board at the grocery store, or applying to a job that you don't think you're qualified for. Whatever that step is, think about it. And when something even so friggin' tiny happens, you're gonna feel like the tiniest win in the whole entire world. You're gonna feel it right there where you put your little ball of motivation. You're gonna feel it there, and you're gonna feel like you can now take 3 steps, and it's gonna be so exciting. And that's one of the most important things too that you can do especially as you're kind of training yourself to focus on this growth and to focus on your motivating factors, is celebrate every single little tiny win. Feel them in your chest, in your ball of motivation. Feel them in your whole entire body. Let yourself cry, let yourself celebrate. Pop a bottle of champagne for literally anything, because every tiny little win is a tiny little win, and it's getting you closer to where you dream of being. And it's so exciting. And now finally, I want to wrap up with something that I'm still working on, okay? Worrying does not take away tomorrow's troubles, but it does take away your peace today. Worrying about the future, worrying about what people will think about you, worrying about how you'll do it, worrying about where you might go if you take this step, worrying about how to do it, all of these things. It is the right time. I can almost guarantee that it is the right time for you to at least take a step. It's not always the right time to jump, but it's hard to know when that is the right time for that too. So anyway, it is the right time for you to take a step. I can tell you that. And focusing too much on your fear of what if I take this step and it doesn't work out? What if I take this step and it's actually not the right direction for me? What if I take this step and somebody judges me? What if I take this step and what if I take this step and what if I take this step? And it never ends. It never ends. Trust me, as someone who's medicated because they can't stop feeling that. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it will steal all of your motivation. And it will steal all of your joy. And it will steal all of your peace. So if I can urge you to do anything, it is to take that step with faith and to channel your motivation, whatever that is, every time you think about that what if. Channel that motivation into what if I don't? Where will I be if I don't? You might be in the same exact place. And if you don't like where you're at, that should be scary enough to motivate you to take that dang step. There's a line from one of my favorite Morgan Harper Nichols poems. And she says, I'm just going to read you the whole poem. She says, let July be July and let August be August, and let yourself just be, even in the uncertainty. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to solve everything. And you can still find peace and grow in the wild of changing things. Even in all of the change and the uncertainty and the fear and anxiety and all of it, you can still find peace there. You need to know that you don't have to climb the whole staircase right now, or you don't have to jump off the cliff right now. But taking that step towards being where you want to be is so important. It is so important, and that will be your peace. You don't have to change everything. You don't have to solve it all. You don't have to become a millionaire in a day. But as all of these things are always changing around us and always happening around us, growing and finding peace in the midst of that, growing and becoming who we want to be in the midst of that, that's what we can control. And that is ultimately where we find peace, I think. In that place where we know that we're making the steps, we're changing the things that need to be changed, and we're doing the things that we can do within our power amidst all of the change and the growth and the worry and the anxiety. We're doing the things within our power that we can do. And you're still allowed to rest, and you're still allowed to take a break, and you're still allowed to be okay with being where you are for a little while, right? I'm not trying to feed into toxic motivation culture, toxic, hustle culture, whatever. I'm really not trying to feed into that, because that is not it for me. But what I want to do is encourage you and let you know that taking a step is all it takes to get one step closer to where you want to be. Guys, thank you so friggin' much for hanging out with me today, for listening to me ramble and listening to my thoughts on motivation, on being who and where we want to be eventually, and on growing and changing, and how that relates perfectly to this time of year and to Beltane specifically. So thank you always, always, always for being here and for listening. As always, I do want to remind you, if you want to support the pod, you can check us out on patreon.com/I've been thinking pod. You can check out the website, www.ivebenthinkingpod.com. You can follow us on Instagram at I've Been Thinking Pod, and you can find us on Facebook as well, I've Been Thinking with Elena Grace. I appreciate you guys so, so much. Oh, and you can find us on YouTube as well. I've Been Thinking with Elena Grace should be what you search. And that's where we post I'm getting back on track with getting all of the episodes up on the YouTube channel. So you can find a handful of the audio episodes there. There's a few video episodes there too, when I was playing with doing video remote recordings. And there's also, I'm posting other content there as well. So like, you can kind of vibe with me in my everyday life now too. Like I posted a vlog a few weeks ago where I had to go to a doctor's appointment, and I kind of share my thoughts throughout that process, right? So yeah, come hang out, enjoy, and I appreciate you guys so very much. Thank you for being here, and I'll talk at you next time. This episode was hosted by me, Elena Grace Campbell. It was produced by Tyler Miller, and it is proudly presented by Stoveleg Media.
Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist, and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.